A document you discussed and analyzed quiet weapons for silent wars. And it is really a very huge attack on humanity through electromagnetic radiation. What is the purpose of electromagnetic radiation and how to fight against it?
Well, on Saturday there's the best part of an hour of very concentrated information at the end of part 3, where I go into all this, and there's a heck of a lot of dots to connect. But to keep it brief, they are developing a technological sub-reality. By that I mean they are creating a technological network which is based on what is called smart technology. The reason so many things are called smart today is because it's all part of the same network of control of humanity by technology. We now have people like the global spokesman for Frankenstein, Ray Kurzweil, an executive at Google, who is saying that the human brain will be attached to what he calls the cloud, the technological sub-reality, by 2030. And we're now in 2017, of course. And these are his words, and that once that connection starts, over a period, humans will do less and less of the thinking, and artificial intelligence will do more and more through the cloud and the technological connection, until there is no human thinking anymore, and it's all artificial intelligence. Now, why would they tell us this? Because of the sales pitch. The sales pitch is it will make us superhuman. It will make us beyond anything we've ever believed we can be. It will not make us superhuman, it will make us subhuman, because we will now be artificial intelligence and not human intelligence. They don't tell you that, even though they know it. And so then, so in that sense, Ray Kurzweil is the bad cop who's coming out with it. I was saying it's a good thing. And then you've got people like Elon Musk, the co-founder of PayPal, and he puts rockets and satellites up through his SpaceX organization, and Tesla cars he runs and all that stuff. And he's saying actually attaching humans to technology and being controlled by robots is a really bad thing. But then he goes on to say, but if we're not going to be controlled by machines, i.e. the Matrix, we're not going to be controlled by machines, then we've got to be attached to artificial intelligence, or the machines will become more intelligent than us and take over. So why are we developing artificial intelligence going to take over us? How about stopping that? But that's never an option. The outcome is always, oh, it's a great thing to be attached to artificial intelligence, or, well, it's not a great thing, but we have to do it because it will take over anyway. So what we're seeing is this technological sub-reality, and part of it is to vastly increase the radiation in the atmosphere and to change the atmosphere dramatically. This is not the only reason. There are much deeper and more far out reasons why they're doing it. But what people don't realize is, if you're going to be attached to a cloud of artificial intelligence, then that cloud needs to be everywhere. It needs to be everywhere on the planet. No one excluded, no area excluded. And this is why people in the high-tech industry, not least Facebook, I mean, Facebook, that's just a social media. That's where you say hello to your mum, isn't it? No, that's the front. Google and Facebook are working very closely with an organization, one of the most sinister on earth, perhaps the most sinister, called DARPA, which is the technological development arm of the Pentagon, which claims that it created the internet. Also does things like death rays, very nice organization. And they are the driver. DARPA is the driver of this transhumanist agenda, this sub-reality agenda using technology. And Google and Facebook are fundamentally involved. And Elon Musk ironically, with his SpaceX operation, is shooting up rockets with satellites on them to bathe the entirety of the Earth in Wi-Fi. And what they're saying, it's not fair that someone in the Gobi Desert or in the Sahara Desert doesn't have Wi-Fi. It's not fair. So we've got to put it everywhere, right? So they're shooting up there. But you remember last year, one of Musk's rockets exploded when it was about to be launched at Cape Canaveral. Well, what it was about to do was carry a Facebook satellite into space to bathe vast areas of sub-Saharan Africa in Wi-Fi. And as economists have pointed out, there is no economic payback whatsoever from putting Wi-Fi in areas of the world where there are very few people, and very few people still now or even want to use it. But they're still doing it. And to give people an idea of the scale, an Indian rocket was sent up not long ago, which broke the record for launching the most satellites in one rocket launch, 104. They don't, tell us in the newspapers all the satellites that are going up. And what are they doing? They're not shooting outwards, they're shooting inwards. And they're all part of creating a sub-reality. So this is what is happening. And of course, the vast increase in atmospheric radiation has an impact upon the human mind, impact on human emotion, and impact on human health, because what is the body? It is an electromagnetic radiation field or field, so it's got to be impacted upon when the radiation field that we are interacting with is changing because of technological intervention. And these are the levels of what's going on that are way beyond Donald Trump and even the French election. And I'm not saying they're not important, they are relevant because of their immediate impact and what have you. But they want us to focus on who's going to be French president and who's going to be American president and all the rest of it, because then we don't widen our focus and look into these areas we're talking about now, which is how our very atmosphere is being changed in line with an agenda of human control that involves connecting humanity to technology. And it's happening. It's happening. This is what the getting people addicted to technology and smartphones is all about. We're being taken along a journey. Get them addicted to things they hold, then move to things they wear, smart watches and Google Glass and Bluetooth on your ear. Get them on the body, and the next stage then is we'll get them in the body, and that's what's happening now. Internal microchips. I've just come, like I say, just come down from Sweden, and they're being microchipped in Sweden. There was a guy came to the event that had been microchipped in his hand, so that he could work at this particular place, and he could open a door without having to push it. Oh, isn't that great? Let's get microchips. Let's get externally controlled. Why? Well, the door will open when I walk towards it. I don't have to push it anymore. Isn't life great? And it's madness. But it's happening in Sweden, and it's happening in other places. And this is the real cutting edge of the control system. Of course, it's not the political level. That's the means to an end. The end is technological control of humanity and the human mind and human thinking in the way that I'm describing.
Yes, and you've described very well the background of this system that is satanic. And what is the connection between Satanism and pedophilia that are the main phenomena in the New World Order? We see it from clandestine males that I think only 10% was released, and it was all about that.
Well, that's something I've been researching and uncovering for a very, very long time, way back into the 1990s, when I started to see that there was beyond the ratio of the rest of the population, there was a prevalence, a concentrated ratio of Satanists and paedophiles in the so-called upper echelons of society, i.e. positions of power. So when you realise that, then the next question is why? Because that's the reason. And this takes us into very deep areas because ultimately this reality is controlled from beyond the reality that we can see. I mean, what the frequency band that we can actually see, that we call the world, is so tiny it's laughable. What we live in is the equivalent of a television or radio station. There's a frequency band. You know, you get a radio and you tune it to a frequency, you get that radio station. But that's all you get. But in the same space as all those others, the station you're on are all the other stations that are not interfering with your station because they're on different frequencies, different wavelengths. And so we are living, if you like, in a radio television station frequency band, which is interpenetrated by all the other frequency bands of life existence, which do not interfere with us unless they're very close on the dial. And very, very close to this frequency band we call the human world of the scene, is another band of frequency which is occupied by entities that don't take a human form. They take many different forms. One of the dominant ones, if not the most dominant one in relation to Earth manipulation, takes a reptilian form. And these entities feed off human energy. You see, in the Matrix movie series, there was so much truth hidden as sci-fi. And one of them was the machines feeding off human energy. That's where they got the power from. All those babies being vampired of their energy by the machines to empower them. And this force feeds off human energy. And it feeds off human energy within a certain frequency band. A frequency band that relates to it. You can only absorb energy on the frequency band that you're on. Otherwise, they, like radio stations, they pass through each other and can't be absorbed. And the frequency band of this manipulative force is what I call low vibrational human emotion. It's all based around the base emotion of fear, anxiety, depression, violence, in its most extreme form, what we call psychopathic behavior, all of this. But the energy that this force wants more than any other is the energy of children, pre-puberty children. And so the paedophile, particularly the paedophile of these particular families that are in control, they are possessed by these entities. These entities infest their energetic field. So when they're having sex and abusing children, the entity is drawing off the child's energy, which is a kind of, if you like, nectar to this force. And what's interesting, because if you're going to understand something today, and you're going to confirm it almost, then you need to look into what we call the past and see if the same things were happening then. And if you talk to the shaman around the world, they all describe the same process. That this force manipulating human society, which they all in different cultures have different names for, like the Islamic belief system calls them the jinn, and the Gnostic belief system calls them the archons, and they describe them in the same way, just different names. They describe how they feed off human energy, and how they feed their prized energy is the energy of children. So when we have these ancient stories of sacrificing young virgins to the gods, young virgins is just code for children. They were children, And this is why when I've done endless research in America and Europe and Britain about Satanism and how these human sacrifice rituals still go on, why children is the sacrifice that they want more than any other. And they have people, women, held in captivity around the world, and they're given a name. They're called breeders. I found this phenomenon everywhere. And that what they do is they hold them in captivity, they impregnate them, they either abort the fetus or let the child be born. Now, because they've been in captivity, the system doesn't know that child's been born, has no idea that child exists, and then they're sacrificed in rituals. I know it's fantastic for many people listening to this, probably most people, that this is happening in the world that they perceive to be how things are. This is what happens in the shadows. So in terms of Satanism and paedophilia, the same people tend to be both, not always, but often. And Satanism, the satanic rituals, is the interaction with this force, with these entities in the hidden, the gods as they're perceived. That's what satanic rituals are all about. And I've talked to people around the world who've taken part in these rituals. And they tell me how in the most powerful of them, an energetic gateway is created, which allows these entities to slip very briefly, often, into the ritual. And many people around the world have described the same thing, of suddenly in this ritual, this often hideous figure kind of manifests in front of you. Because to come from the frequency band that they're on into our frequency band demands a massive amount of energy to make that connection. You see, you know when people feel that there's a ghost in the room or there's some presence in the room, what do they often say? The room went really cold. Why? Because for that entity to manifest in any way in our reality, it draws the energy to itself to make that transition. And as it draws energy to itself, it takes energy out of the place where you are in the form of heat. That's why the room goes cold. And it's the same kind of process that I'm talking about in these rituals. And so some of the most famous people in the world, including the British royal family, it's all in my books, including former British prime ministers and ministers, including people like George Bush and another guy, Alan Greenspan, the long-time head for a long period of the Federal Reserve in America, the privately owned Central Bank of America. They've all been named to me many times, especially the British royal family, as taking part in satanic ritual sacrifice, which fits the whole story when you look into the background of these people. It fits. Now, here's the point. If you have so little or no empathy, you have no capacity for compassion to the point where you can torture and sacrifice a child, what limits are there in what you will do in your behavior? Pepper bombing cities full of civilians, as in the Middle East over and over again, and they're doing it now in Mosul, or they're doing it now in Raqqa, creating world wars that create mass death, destruction and suffering. That's only a problem if you have an emotional comeback, if you have an emotional consequence. If you have no emotional consequence, and these people don't, this is why they can do this to children and have no emotional comeback, then there are no limits. Compassion, empathy, is the fail-safe mechanism of human behavior. It's what stops people doing things, because they can put themselves in the place of the people who are the victims of what they would potentially do. So they won't do it because the empathy stops them. You imagine no empathy. You can do anything to anyone and you have no empathy whatsoever, no emotional consequence. This is the people we're dealing with. These are the people running NATO. These are the people running the European Union. These are the people running countries. These are the people running Britain. They're certainly the people running the United States. They are machine-like. They are software-like, rather than human-like, in the sense that we perceive human. And once that penny drops, people stop judging what these people will do by what they would do. The great dismissal that I've heard over the years is when you're explaining the scale and the depth and the depravity of what goes on, they say they would never do that. No, you would never do that. Not only will they do it, they get a rush from it. It's very hard, I know, for people to appreciate this, the depth and the scale of what we call evil that's behind world events. And what is evil? In English, if you spell evil backwards, it's the word live. Evil is an inversion of life. And this is why, because it's an inversion of life, this is why they're obsessed with death. This is why Satanists do their rituals in churchyards and what have you. This is why they do sacrifices, or one reason. They're obsessed with death. Because death has a frequency. And it's a frequency they can absorb. Whereas life and love and compassion and empathy are all high frequencies they can't absorb. That's why they don't want a world of love and empathy and compassion, because it's denying their energetic sustenance. And here's a point. I've noticed very clearly as the years have gone on that there is a clear global campaign to delete empathy. To delete empathy. And one of the main ways they're doing it is violent computer games. Kids play violent computer games and it's about killing and all the rest of it. You are deleting empathy. And that's what they want. So if we want to stop it happening, let's be empathetic.